Hello, hello, hello. All right, guys, here we go. We're going to be talking today about the volume of prisms and pyramids. So the hard part, like with circles, how it was hard to tell the difference between the circumference and the area, remembering the formulas and calculating the right things. That's the difficult that's going to be here is on this next quiz. Can you tell the difference between volume and surface area? Remember, surface area is that if we're taking a shape, we're trying to figure out how much it takes to cover it. That if you're trying to find the volume, how much does it take to fill it. Okay, volume is going to be cubic units. Surface area is going to be square units. Let's move from there. Okay, so if we look at these again, they're the same shapes, right? But what we're going to be talking about is how much does it take to fill it. So to give you a quick understanding, what we're talking about, if we were to take this and look and say we're going to take a layer, right? One layer of this shape. Then we figure out the area of that, but this is one deep, right? This is one deep, 1 centimeter deep, 1 centimeter, right? So if we're finding the volume of that one layer, it's going to be the length times the width times the height. Now in that one, the height is 1, right? But the length is 2 centimeters and the height is 5 centimeters. So that means that one layer is 10 centimeters cubed because it's three-dimensional, right? But if we're going up 6 centimeters, that means we're going to repeat that layer 6 times. So to find the total volume of this shape, it's going to be the length, which is 2, times the 5 times 6. Okay, and that's going to be 2 times 5 is 10, times 6 is 60. It's going to be 60 centimeters cubed. That's it. That's the volume. Okay, that's all there is to it. We're talking about repeating those layers 6 times, right? So we're just finding out the volume. How much does it take to fill it? So again, if we look at this one, then what we're talking about is 1, 2, and 3 layers, right? Because it's meter layers, right? Of this base of the base. Okay, so really what we're doing is the base times its height, which the base is going to be the length times the width, which is 5 meters times 2 meters times the height, which is 3 meters, right? So what we have is 30 meters cubed. That's it. That's the volume. Okay, so a triangular prism, again, these were rectangular prisms, right? We could break up these into rectangular pieces that were one layer. And we could have done it in any way. We could have broken them up and we could show you a different way. But here, these are a triangular piece, right? So when we break up those slices, what we're going to be doing is counting that we have 8 slices of a triangle whose height is 9, right? 9 yards, and base is, so what we're doing is taking the base times the height of the unit, right? The base is the triangle. So this is the formula. The capital B means the area of the base, all right? And the base is a triangle, so we have to find the area of a triangle, which is base times height divided by 2. Times the height, or this part here, right? Times the 8. And then if we look, we have 6 is our base. So we're going to have 6 times 9 is the height of our triangle, right? So times 9 divided by 2. Times the 8, which is how many layers we have, right? And so this gives us, this is 54, so that's going to be 27 times 8, which is 216. So we have 216 yards cubed. That's the volume. Okay. So notice that all we're doing with these is we've kept talking about layers, that we figure out the area of the one layer. And so we could really look and say that for a rectangular prism, we're still taking the base times the height of the prism. How many layers are there of the base? Because this is our base right here, is the length times the width. Okay, so it's the general formula. You have to understand what you're talking about for shapes. Okay, so now you try this one. We even, you have it written in your notes, right? So now you try to do this one. Okay, you should come out with 105 meters cubed. Because you're looking at the triangle, right? And so that's going to be the base times the height divided by 2, because it's a triangle. And then the height of this thing is actually 6 meters, right? So we have this be 6 meters. And so what we wind up with is 5 times 6, or 5 times 7, divided by 2 times the 6. And that's going to be meters cubed. And that comes out to 105 meters cubed. Okay, so we find the volume of the first layer and then figure out how many layers we have, which is we're going to have 6 layers. So now let's move on to the next thing, which is a little more difficult, and that is the volume of a pyramid. So the thing that's difficult about the pyramid is remembering the formula. Now that's the same thing with circles, with remembering the difference between circumference and area. It's the same thing, remembering it's a triangular prism, so you have to find the area of the base. So remember, that's the first thing we're talking about, is what is the base, right? And then if we consider this, when we look at this, if we remember that really this came from, our formula comes from what would it be if it was a prism? So if we drew the prism out, and if this was 7 feet, right? Then what we would just say is, it's going to be the area of the base, which is this right in here, right? The base times the height, which is going to be the length times the width times the height. But notice that that prism would be more. Matter of fact, it's 3 times as much as what the pyramid is. So what we say is, to find the volume of the pyramid, we would just take the base times the height and divide it by 3. Because the volume of the pyramid is 1/3 of the volume of the prism that it would create. Okay, so basically what we're going to do is look and say, well, what's the base? And the base would be the 8 by 6. So that's going to be 8 by 6 times the height, which is 7, right? So it would be times the 7, but then we're going to divide that by 3. Okay, and remember, we are still talking about a cubic unit, so it's still talking about volume, so it's still going to be cubic, because we do have feet times feet times feet, right? 6 feet by 8 feet by 7 feet. So it's going to come out to be 112 feet cubed. Okay, so when you do this one, right, you're going to do the same thing. We're going to look at the base. Okay, and the base is gonna, so we have the base times the height. Okay, and then we're gonna divide that by 3 because it's a third of the volume that it would be for the, it's a third of the volume that would be for the actual prism. So we just plug in our numbers now. Okay, so we have yards cubed, right? And it's going to come out to 162 yards cubed. Honestly, what I did in my head was I just said, oh, I got 9 times 9 times 6 divided by 3. So I've got 81 times 2, which is 162. But you can use a calculator. Matter of fact, you should be using a calculator at least to check your math, right? You should at least show this much math when you're doing it, but you're going to use the calculator. If it's simple for you to do this math, do it, write it out, but always double check with a calculator because you can. Okay, so now as a review, calculate these surface areas because this is probably the hardest part, is calculate the surface area of these two shapes. Remember, we've just been talking about volume. So you need to calculate the surface area. If you need to draw out the nets, go ahead and draw out the nets. But do the surface area for these. Okay, so with this first one, you should have come up with 118 inches squared. I've color coded it so you could see where the different regions were. Okay, so when you look, this right here are these two sides because it's a rectangular prism, right? And this right here represents these two sides. And these two right here represent these two sides. Okay. And on the second one, you should have come up with 330 centimeters squared. And again, I've color coded things so you can see that you have two triangles, which basically you're multiplying it by 2, but you're also dividing it by 2. So you have 60, right? And then you have a 9 by 12, which is this right here, right? So that's 9 by 12. Then you have a 9 by 13, which is this right here. And then your 9 by 5 sits right here, right? That's the 3 bases. And that adds up to 330 centimeters squared. Okay, guys, so that's the review. The big gist of this is the difference between having the surface area, which is we just reviewed, and finding the volume. Okay, so finding the volume of the pyramid is, you got to remember, the trick to that one is you got to remember that you divide by 3. Okay, and then the volume for the others, for the triangle, is remember that you have a triangle that you're getting multiple layers of, and that you're trying to find the first layer and then multiply times the height of the layers is pretty much the repeating theme. All right, so hopefully you do well on this. You come with questions. Good luck. Have a good day.